This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or mental health advice. The views and opinions expressed by the host of My Brain is a Wonderland are exactly that, views and opinions. This is Emily Ruth Henderson, and I'm the host of My Brain is a Wonderland, the podcast for neurodivergent women and the people who love them. In 2020, after a hellish pandemic, I was diagnosed with ADHD and autism. Surprise! Now, I am passionate about reaching other women just like me who've been pushed aside, ignored, and misdiagnosed for far too long. Every week, I discuss my experience navigating my 30s with these two life-changing diagnoses. There'll be highs, there'll be lows, and everything in between when you join me for Season 4 of My Brain is a Wonderland. Hello and welcome back. You're here with Emily and we are continuing Season 4 today. I just wanted to say to everyone, thank you so much for the support. I've been getting some extra reviews and I have officially hit today, not today when it's coming out, today when I'm recording this episode, 1,000 listens in the last 30 days, which is actually 1,000 listens in the last 2 weeks because that's when I started on the new podcast platform and started asking you guys to listen to as many episodes as possible. I don't know if this episode is going to have ads in it because honestly I just went into the app and thought this was going to be an easy process and it looks like it might be a little bit involved, so we'll see if this episode ends up having ads or not, but thank you so much. And I did actually turn on my fan mail on my podcast in the new hosting. So it comes up at the top of the show notes, says send Emily a text message or send us a text message. And I received a text message. I can't actually respond on the platform. I think that's to kind of protect my anonymity. And just so everyone's aware, I can only see whoever sent this fan mail, the last 4 digits of your number. So I cannot contact you. There's no name. I don't want you to think like I have access to your stuff and you don't have access to mine. But it's someone from Syracuse, New York. And they said, love your podcast. Now I know I'm not alone. Thank you. 3 heart emojis. No, thank you. If anyone else would like to just shoot a little text over that tells me how great I am, man, that is the boost you need every Monday morning, I'm telling you. So thank you so much. Thank you for the support and thank you for listening. So today, as promised, we're going to be talking about eating with ADHD. Last week, I did eating with autism, and I wanted to separate them because I have said this before that I really feel like I can often identify which different parts of these disorders are feeding into different behaviors and how they interact with each other, sometimes don't work together. They're a little bit oil and water sometimes, but also I feel like my autism did a great job of curbing my ADHD. And vice versa, because I feel like my autism sometimes stops me from just going off the rails, being too out there, being too talkative, just being too much, because my autism is more reserved. And then in terms of my ADHD, I think my ADHD works to help me bring me out of my shell of my autism that kind of keeps me close to home and, not communicative and that kind of thing. But for ADHD, as opposed to the autism where it becomes this kind of you're very picky with eating, you have only certain things you can eat, you won't eat anything else, you have texture issues and lots of parameters about how you eat, when you eat, and why you eat. For me, I find that ADHD, and this isn't for everyone, but for me in particularly, I find it is categorized by a binging behavior. I have anecdotally heard that if you are medicated, particularly with Adderall or maybe Vyvanse, that can be reduced. But I'm going to talk about my experience and then also things that I use to curb that kind of behavior. And if you can hear any jingling of collars or slurping of dogs, I have now taken to just having my dogs in the room with me when I record because of everything that's been going on with my dog. So, binging, eating with ADHD. It often can come about from, we know ADHD, people with ADHD lack dopamine. And dopamine is that kind of fun, happy chemical that kind of keeps you up. And when you don't have dopamine hits, you can become very even or depressed. And by even, I mean very neutral. You're not feeling much. You're not happy. You're not sad. You're just kind of a neutral feeler. And then that can lead to depression. But if you're dealing with boredom, stress, anything like that, overeating and binging can really serve to soothe someone with ADHD for a few reasons. It can be that you get the dopamine hits from the food, right? So then you're sitting around all day, you haven't done anything, you've been paralyzed by this list of things you have to do, you feel very neutral, that you're not up, you're not down, you're just blah. And then you get a bite of that sensory deliciousness, which could be, it's different for everybody. I'm not a sweet tooth person, so I'm like, give me a block of cheese and I could eat the whole thing. Give me, a Greek salad because it has that amazing combination of sensory delights of crunchy vegetables, refreshing and salty. Really anything with cheese, but those are some of my things that I absolutely delight in. Matcha, I love to drink every day in the morning. When I go to work, I'm like, this is my matcha that's going to set up my day. But often the issue for me that can come from that is, let's say I have made a Greek salad. And I've made a lot of it because I've made it for my husband too, and maybe I want it for lunch the next day or something. And I have it, and I make a portion that is reasonable. That is going to fill me up, satiate me, and all the things. Well, I might start eating that, and it almost becomes this frantic need to keep doing that, to keep filling my mouth with that item. And it feels very oral based, right? I do like the feeling of being full and overly full, but it's almost, I'm not hungry. It's almost this just feeling in my mouth of being so delicious and satisfying and satiating that I cannot stop doing it. And I will end up eating, even if I'm beyond full. If it's still feeling good in my mouth, I will just keep eating and eating and eating this thing. Another one of the things I am obsessed with that I do that with is tuna pasta salad. I don't know what it is about that. I know in the previous episode I said I love tuna melts, so it also translates to tuna pasta salad. I had a obsession at one point with PB&Js, and I was eating dinners, and then I would have to have a PB&J after, and then maybe another one, and it would just become this dopamine hit cycle that became very difficult to break, and it almost feels like an addiction. I grew up with an addiction problem in my family. My father was an alcoholic. My mom is a smoker. My cousins on my grandfather's side were all coke addicts. They sold coke and heroin, and a few of them went to prison. And then my cousin on my mom's side was also a heroin addict. And then my grandfather was a smoker since he was like 9 years old. He had a quadruple bypass in his 50s and then still smoked after that, even though he wasn't supposed to. And so I have a lot of addiction issues in my family. And when I was growing up, and I think a lot of it is from us being neurodivergent, but when I was growing up, I thought that my issue was addiction. And when I became like a late teen, 20s adult person, I would have these fixations on foods that, let's say tuna pasta salad, I would have to eat it for lunch every day for like a month until I was like, I'm kind of done with this. And I used to talk about it to people, my husband, my mother-in-law, friends, and say that I have this kind of addictive personality where it can be complicated because if I like something, I get really addicted to it and it becomes this cycle of addiction. And now actually looking back, I don't think it is addiction. I think absolutely neurodivergent people develop addictions for a lot of other different reasons, emotional deregulation and things like that. But the food aspect that I thought was addiction was actually this dopamine seeking, hitting situation with food. I remember doing this a lot in high school. I would come home, my mom would be out at night school, and I would take when I say a tub of ice cream, not a Haagen-Dazs tub, like a pint, like maybe 10 pints, and eat the whole thing. And you're just like, you're not savoring it. You're not kind of just chilling and like, that's so good. You're just going, like literally spoon after spoon after spoon until it's gone. This frantic madness. And it's from that dopamine. And I know many of you listening have had this experience where you become obsessed with something like a food, which I thought was the addiction, but it's actually ADHD. And you have to have it the same time, the same day, every day it's like my tuna melt, right? That I talked about last episode. I am in a space right now where every weekend I like to go to that restaurant and get that tuna melt. And I've had this before. I get obsessed with foods at restaurants or certain dishes or meals, even at home. And I'll eat them, every week or every day. And it literally tastes like the most incredible food you've ever put in your mouth. I can't even describe it because when I'm not in one of these states, food just tastes normal, I guess. And I wonder what neurotypical people taste. You're never going to really be able to know, right? You're never going to be able to compare because we're just going to be empirically describing what we taste. And we don't really know how that matches up to what the other person's really feeling because you're just comparing it to your own experience. But it tastes like heaven on your tongue. I mean, it tastes like the most delicious thing you ever have eaten, ever will eat, ever can eat, ever. And then what happens one day after you've eaten it and eaten it and eaten it and you're craving it again, you're like, I'm going to eat it. You put it in your mouth and it tastes like nothing. It tastes like the most bland, boring thing you've ever tasted in your life. It does not taste like how you remember it tasting all those other times prior when you were obsessed with it. And it's a really down, depressing feeling when you encounter that moment. When you encounter okay, this isn't going to be something I'm binging on or obsessing over because it doesn't even taste good anymore. And it's not that it tastes bad. It just, The Wizard of Oz. Weird segue, I know, but stick with me here. When she goes from the black and white real world, right, and she gets taken away in her house that gets blown up into the twister and she lands in Oz and she opens the door and all of a sudden she's in a color world. It's the reverse of that. You're in Oz when you're eating this food and it tastes incredible and you have it every day. You have it for lunch every day. Everything is right with the world. And then you wake up one day and eat it and it tastes black and white. It tastes like all the salt is gone. All the sensory yumminess is gone. And you're just like, ugh. And it's really difficult sometimes because it can kind of anchor you a little bit. Like I said, matcha has been my anchor for work. And I have ebbed and flowed with it. And there have been, the times where you're like, okay, this isn't working. And it's kind of sad when that happens. And then what inevitably happens is you just wait for a new thing to hit. Usually for me, it could take a week, 2 weeks, could take 2 days. But you wait for that new thing to hit that you are kind of obsessing over and finding delicious. And then you just get obsessed with that. And you start eating that all the time. It's just, God, it's so funny. You cannot tell in your brain before it happens in your mouth that you're going to have this taste just very black and white and bland. It's not like you say, okay, I'm going to get that food again because it's so amazing. And then you bite into it and you're like, how come I didn't know that was going to happen? And I don't know if there's been studies on this about chemical reactions or something, about how it just doesn't connect the same anymore. But when it's connecting, and when it's not, it just absolutely isn't. Another aspect of eating with ADHD can be forgetting to eat. And this has been very common for me as well. It's kind of strange because you'd think, if you forget to eat, you'd be super skinny because you never eat. But then I generally make it up in the evening with that fun, obsessive binging, or like, I've got to have all of the chicken. Oh God, that's one of my things. Chicken thighs, like red meat chicken. Oh my God, I could lose my mind eating. It's so, like, freshly cooked red meat chicken. Dark meat chicken, excuse me. It is so succulent. I swear to God, I could eat a whole tray of chicken thighs, like boneless or bone it, whatever. Chicken thighs, chicken drumsticks, like, oh my God. But generally, this will happen, the forgetting to eat, when I am focused on something else. Actually, there's two different things. I'm going to go over two things. First one is forgetting, ADHD hit right there. The first one is you're focused on something else. So, for example, if I'm going to work and I have a particularly busy day, it might get to the point that I've had breakfast in the morning, but by the time I'm even thinking about lunch, it's 3 or 4 p.m. And then I'm at work thinking, well, I'm going to have dinner around 7 to 8, so what's the point in eating now? And then I'm too full for dinner and blah, blah, blah. And so that will happen generally when I just haven't had the space to think about food, haven't had the space to be preoccupied with food, which is sometimes nice. But I find that my brain works the best and I'm alert and able to be present and correct when I have 3 square meals a day. That means a breakfast in the morning that is small but satiating, and so I'm full, but I'm not full, right? Like, not a lot of carbs. Not good with the carbs, and I've heard that is, I freaking love carbs, don't get me wrong. I could devour pasta upon pasta for the rest of my life. Sandwiches that are toasted, I don't like soggy sandwiches, but I've heard that carbs are not so great for the ADHD brain, can make you very foggy, make your body feel foggy and sludgy and that kind of thing. So getting a nice little protein breakfast in the morning. I like protein shakes in the morning. I like these things, they're called P3s, also known as a snack pack, but a P3 is protein only. So they do cheese, meat, and nuts. Some other snack packs will have, chocolatey bits or crackers. They'll add in the carbs and the sugars. I cannot have that. Gives me a headache, makes me sludgy. So I like to do P3s, which are meat, cheese, and nuts. I like to do protein shakes. I like to do smoothies, where I'll put honey in instead of sugar, maybe a scoop of protein. I get my fruit in there, get my almond milk in there. And I like matcha in the morning, which is matcha, honey, and almond milk. And then for lunch, something small. I used to, and sometimes still do, overdo it with the lunches. Like, I love a good, egg sandwich, like a breakfast burrito-y vibe, but God, does that just, make me foggy. So for me, if I'm going to do a sandwich, I like to take one big slice of bread and fold it in half to make one sandwich. So it's not 2 slices, it's just one. Or you could do an open face, so you're using less bread. And I like a turkey, 1 slice of cheese, some lettuce, maybe a slice of tomato, and then a sauce on it. So that could be mayo and honey mustard, French dressing, Thousand Islands, something like that. I also like salads. I love chicken Caesar salad. Another good protein one, no carbs, and the Caesar salad, the salty, is just, the Caesar dressing, salty is my jam. So love that for lunch. And then dinner, I try to keep it carb light as well, but goddamn have I fallen in love with mac and cheese since I moved to the US. But a meat, a small amount of carbs and veggies. I try to do that. Haven't been doing great at that lately. But that's how I kind of keep my brain fresh and my body not sluggish. And it also helps if I have a plan for those meals. So when I go to work, to avoid forgetting, usually I don't put my food in the fridge. Now, if you have a food safety certificate and you're listening, you're probably losing your ever-loving mind. I haven't died yet. Maybe once I get 10 years older from now, I'll reconsider keeping, cooked chicken out of the fridge for a few hours. But I'll get to work at like 9 and I will have brought my refrigerated lunch with me. I'll eat around noon and I will just leave it at my desk. I won't take it to the fridge at work because I will forget it's there. Unless it's a frozen meal, I'll take that to the fridge, but honestly, I'll just forget it, so that doesn't work for me. And then the other reason that I forget to eat, or not forget to eat, like just don't want to, is nothing is appealing. And this will usually happen in that space between being obsessed with a food and not being obsessed with a food, or waiting for the next obsession to hit, that next kind of dopamine hit food. Like I'll be sitting at home because I work from home some days. I have a hybrid work environment and I'll be like, I know I need to eat lunch. Or my belly might be saying like, hey, it's 2:00, eat before it's too late. Because like I said, once it hits 3 or 4, I don't want to eat. It's too close to dinner. And so I'll go to the fridge, I'll look and just I just don't want anything. And that is why I actually keep those protein shakes around, the protein drinks. They're called Owens, OWYN. You can get 2 different versions of them. One of them, they're both protein drinks. One of them has sugar. One of them does not have added sugar. I get the one without added sugar. It's the same price and it's delicious. And it actually has more protein in it. I think it has like 32 or 35 grams a drink. And I will just down one of those because I know I need something. It tastes good, but I just cannot bring myself to make something or consume something of substance, to be honest. And I struggle with that a lot when I'm just like, oh, I don't know. Or I'm like in my head going, God, I could murder a mac and cheese. And I'm like, dude, it's 2:00 on a, Tuesday afternoon. Chill out. So I love keeping those around. And lately I've been getting right back into smoothies because I'll just shove almond milk, a banana, some frozen fruit. I love cashew butter, but you can shove a big scoop of peanut butter in there. You can do some protein powder, honey, blitz that up, and you've got a pretty substantial, yummy meal there that feels light, feels refreshing, but really fills you up. So those are my main issues with eating with ADHD is I will binge when I'm, looking for a dopamine hit or just obsessed with some kind of food. Then I have those moments where I lose the obsession. I just can't feel any kind of food desire. And then kind of forgetting to eat and working through what that means for my belly, for my mind. If I don't eat a lunch, I am just so foggy. I get so tired at the end of the day. And I know I actually, when I try to lose weight now, I realize this in the last year or so, that I need the 3 square meals a day. So my metabolism is still going and I have the energy to work out. Me just drinking a smoothie or a protein drink in the morning and then having dinner at night, or even less than that sometimes, doesn't work. I'm a vegetable I'm a shell of myself when that happens. And actually what ends up happening is if I haven't eaten throughout the day, if I haven't eaten enough, like I skip lunch, I'll usually eat a lot at dinner. And then that binging kind of aspect comes out. And then I end up eating way above the calories I would have eaten if I just had a small lunch in the middle of the day. And then you're not losing weight. And you're foggy. You don't have the energy to work out. You cannot work out after you've eaten a big meal. I mean, especially if I'm eating at 7 or 8 p.m., you have to wait at least an hour to work out. And if the meal is huge, I'm just not going to be able to work out that evening. So for me, it's being measured and having those 3 square meals. And then also, just thinking about it, treating yourself. And by treating yourself, I don't necessarily mean going out and getting yourself something. But for example, if you're at work, and I don't know if anyone else listening has this at work, but goddamn, it is constant. If you're at work and there's cupcakes in the break room, there's donuts, someone says, hey, would you like this? And you actually like it, have a little piece. Like the other day I was at work and, oh God, one of the things, it segues to this, sorry, cut that out. I cut that, whatever. One of the things used to be crumble cookie. At night, got obsessed with it, was having it like 3 times a week. If you don't know, those cookies are like 1,000 calories a cookie, like literally. I hadn't had it for months because the dopamine wasn't hitting anymore. And quite frankly, my husband and I were gaining weight like insane because it's 1,000 calories a cookie. And you're getting 6 cookies or what have you, and you're eating at least 3. And so you're getting 3,000 calories at night, multiple times a week. It was so bad. So I hadn't had crumble cookie for a long time. And at work a couple of weeks ago, they had some. And I took just a quarter of a cookie. Just a quarter. And oh my God. It was so satisfying. And it gave me that, just that mouthfeel satisfaction, that treat satisfaction that I needed for having a hard day. And then also didn't make me feel guilty about eating it, which was really nice because I always have that, the day after, like, oh, why did I eat that thing? If you eat 3 crumble cookies in one go, like, geez Louise. So treat yourself. Let yourself have those moments. But when you're going to go and get donuts and it's just you and your husband, you don't need 12. You need 4, probably. If you're going to get ice cream after you've had dinner when you've gone out, you don't need a bowl with this topping, that topping, 3 different types of ice cream and a brownie on top and a cookie on the side. You need a scoop. You need a scoop of ice cream, and that's all you need just to feel amazing, not feel guilty, feel satiated, reward yourself, and feel very even with everything. You can still work out. You feel good the next day. I have a thing where sugar gives me a major headache. So if I eat like a brownie, a full piece of cake, I have a terrible headache within an hour or so. So I really don't like to do that either. But yeah, my recommendation to you is try to be measured, planned with your eating. Do a meal plan. I know that people struggle to shop for food. I'm always looking in the fridge being like, okay, I've got a chicken here. I've got some lettuce here. I've got some this and that there. And then I look up recipes. What can you make with chicken and lettuce, tomato, whatever? What can I make with the things I have left over that are healthy, where there's no food wastage? I think allrecipes.com, which is a big recipe website, they actually allow you to search for recipes by ingredients. So if you're like, I have, beef, pasta, tomatoes, peppers, or whatever, eggplant, you can put it in the app and it will pull up recipes with those things in. So I always like to meal plan so that I'm making with the chicken today, Greek salad, but then tomorrow I'm going to do chicken tacos and which to some of you, it might sound super overwhelming. Start small. Just start small. Start just with a packet of chicken a week and see if you can make a couple of meals out of it. And then otherwise, eat canned soup and frozen food for the rest of the week. Start small. You don't have to go all in, all crazy. Get 1 packet of ground beef and be like, all right, I'm going to do spaghetti tonight. And then what could I do tomorrow? I could do, maybe Greek meatballs or something like that. Because I don't like to do too many of the same cuisines in a row. I don't like to have Mexican, then Mexican, then Mexican. Or Italian, then Italian. Because you could do spaghetti and then do meatballs the next day. But if you do meatballs that are Greek style, sounds yummy. So those are my recommendations. Sorry if I was rambling a little bit there. I did have a plan that I was reading from, but I think I went a little bit off there. And again, thank you so much for your support. I'm not sure what next week's episode is going to be. I'm almost positive there's going to be a bonus Dog Chronicles episode in the next week. My dog is on a break from chemo. This is where the rubber meets the road. We find out if the chemo is working. So I will have a episode for you. I don't know what day. I'm just going to record them and throw them up when they're done. And then I'll next Wednesday see you for another episode about having ADHD and autism on season 4 of My Brain is a Wonderland. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.